Some more creepypastas. So today we're going to be reading Betsy the Doll. This isn't a very long one, so I'll try to read as slow as I can. We'll see. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Like most people these days, I had a fucked up childhood. I mean, who doesn't, right? My father took off before I was born, and my mother was left to care for me on her own, a skill she was sorely lacking. My mother slipped right back into the drug-addled party lifestyle she enjoyed before I was born, and had soon turned our two-bedroom apartment into an opium den. For the first 5 years of my life, I walked around in a confused, terrifying mist. The smoky air would flood down the hallway of our living room and slip under my bedroom door, and it always seemed to linger for days. I know now that my mother wasn't a bad person, just a victim of her own addiction. When she did have the spare money, she would put food in the house or buy me clothes from Goodwill, and the only pieces of furniture I had in my bedroom was a mattress set and a little blue and white toy chest. Not that I had a lot of toys to put in it, of course, just the three I had gotten for my birthday. One was an art kit, one was a red wagon, and the last was my pride and joy, was a doll named Betsy. Betsy was my best friend. We would have imaginary tea parties together, sleep together, and even take baths together. Sometimes I even remember her voice. When I thought back on my conversation with the doll in adulthood, I realized that I was likely suffering from delusions thanks to the always present butts of smoke that laid claim to the dingy hallway and drafty bedrooms from our small apartment. Still, I remember the sound of her voice, a pleasant, tingling lilt that was always coupled with a miraculous giggle. I also remember the things she said to me and the things she wanted me to do. She would ask me to steal usual food or pens and pencils. She wanted me to bring her forks and knives and hit the bad man who slept on the couch. It was always something, and I would always get in trouble, but she wouldn't. When I told my mother, who would put me up to these games, she would scoff and shake her head, and she never believed me. Adults never do. Around my sixth birthday, I asked my mother for a birthday party. I wanted to invite the mean girls from school and serve them cake and ice cream to make them like me. I remember standing in the kitchen that day with such hopes, having to ask the most important question of my entire life. The glass bottle of Coca-Cola I held was shaking in my nervous hands, and I waited with bated breath as my mother continued putting the groceries away, almost as if she never heard me, but I knew she had. Finally, as I just failed a second time to muster up the courage to repeat my question, she turned around and gave me the flippant shake of her head. A birthday party? Laura, that's ridiculous. I can't afford to feed 15 children that aren't even mine. Hell, I can barely afford to feed you. You eat like an elephant, especially for a girl your size. Or, I'm sorry, Betsy does. There's barely anything left for me to eat around here, much less a classroom of other people's brats. My face fell as she shook her head and mumbled something else under her breath and stumbled off into the living room. I heard the music go up as the more people walked into the room. Some left and some stayed. I never knew them either way. It simply wasn't fair that my mother threw parties all the time. What about me? I was a kid. All my friends had birthday parties, and now the mean girls would know I was too poor to have one, and they would tease me even more. I felt the tears start to well up in the corners of my eyes and I choked back a sob while I ran to my room and slammed the door behind me. Betsy was lying on the bed and smiling. She was always smiling. Usually it made me feel better, but today it just made me angry. She kept staring at me, smiling. She was going to tell me to do something bad again. This is why my mother wouldn't throw me a birthday party. It was because of all the trouble I got into because of her. This was her fault. Betsy didn't have to go to school, and Betsy never got in trouble like I did, and in the young mind I truly believed it was the doll, and not my mother who was to blame for everything. I snapped them. I screamed in indignant rage and threw bottles as hard as I could at the bed. It hit Betsy on her forehead and she fell on the floor. Good. I picked up the bottle and hit her again and again. I thought I heard her laugh, and I hit her harder. Then I laughed. When my rage was spent, I dragged Betsy to my toy chest and threw her in. I slammed it shut, kicked the chest against the wall, and I never wanted to see Betsy again, ever. I never owned another doll after Betsy. A week later, the police came and two nice ladies took me in to live in a new home in a new state with food and toys and no drugs. The trunk went into storage and the wagon disappeared. I never saw my mother again, and as I got older, my foster parents admitted she was in jail for doing 25 years. That was fine with me. I felt nothing for her anyways. I still had nightmares because of my life with that woman, but then slowly it began to heal. I focused on doing well in school, and I ignored my mother's letters from prison. She reached out to me several times in my 20s, but I always declined her calls. That is, until this morning, I'm 30 now, with my own children and loving, honest husband. I have a beautiful house, two dogs, and a career as a social worker trying to make a difference for kids who had it bad like me. I'm happy, I'm steady, and I'm content. So when I got a voicemail from my mother informing me she had been paroled and she was to speak, decided to let her say her piece. Since the kids are home from school, I went out into the shed and in the backyard and returned my mother's calls. The shed was the children's domain, and they used it to play in the summer. I sat on my old toy chest, which was currently being used as a tea party table, and dialed the number she had left me. 3 rings. Hello? Laura? Hello, Mother. How are you? Oh, Laura, thank you for speaking with me. I know you have your own life and family now, and I would love to meet them someday. I just want to tell you how sorry I am for everything. Mother, you are not meeting my kids. Ever. And since you called me, I am going to say one thing that I needed to say for years. The opium, the heroin, they destroyed you. And the worst of it is that you almost took me down with you. I was 5, and that was no home for a child. Honestly, I'm surprised it took you so long to get caught. Laura, I know how it seems, but honestly, I know nothing. Look, it hardly matters, and I do understand why you feel that way, why you would hate me and not want me to meet your little ones. I learned a lot about forgiveness while I was away, and Laura, please, I'm so sorry about Betsy. Betsy? I paused confused. Why would I care about her? I know, Laura, believe me, I do. It was all my fault. The drugs, the partying, and Betsy. Oh, God, if only I paid attention, and if I had known she's gone, it's because of me. As my mother began to cry, I tapped my finger on the toy box impatiently, and the drugs had clearly fried her brain. Mother, why are you talking about Betsy, and why do you even care? I know where Betsy is. Right underneath me. What are you talking about? Laura? Oh, God, where is she? I shifted uncomfortably. Well, Betsy's in the trunk, where she's always been. There was a beat of stunning silence. What do you mean your sister's in the trunk? Sister? What the hell are you talking about? Back on drugs so soon? That's a record for even you. Betsy's a goddamn doll. I locked her in my toy box a few days before you got arrested for possession. Laura. Oh, God. No, Laura, what have you done? I wasn't arrested because of the drugs. Laura, I was arrested because of Betsy's disappearance. You always called her your little doll, but we thought you knew. Oh, God, we thought you knew, Laura. No, what have you done to my baby? My mind had gone blank, and with no emotion, I set the phone down next to me and stood up. I could hear the muffled sounds of my mother's anguished cries and feel the dark clutch of possibility in my own chest. Memories were stirring in the back of my mind, threatening to flood forward into my consciousness. They pushed against the door in my mind, and they had locked so tightly for so long that I'd forgotten it was even there. Was it even possible? Could the trauma and opium really have led me to believe that a small child was actually a doll, begging for food and utensils to eat with, asking me to protect her from the bad man? No. I slowly turned around and brought my eyes down to the makeshift tea party table. Surely it was too small. You couldn't fit a person in there. You couldn't. But then, what about a very small, starving, emaciated child? What about her? Would she fit? Would an investigator even bother looking for a person in this chest? I knew I wouldn't. It was just too small. And I was sure we had opened the toy box at some point over the years, hadn't we? Or had something swimming in the dark recesses of my memories that had always stopped me? I couldn't remember ever seeing it open. I knelt down to the ground and opened the clasps. It'd be better to not look. After all I'd overcome, this new life that I had earned for myself, it would all be undone by opening this toy box. I shouldn't have opened it. I should have thrown it in the landfill and forget it ever existed, and I should not look inside. I opened the chest. I never had a doll. My mother could never afford to buy me one. I never had a wagon either, for the matter, but I did have a toy box, a pretty blue and white toy box, and when I was 5, I beat my little sister to death and put her in it. And now my life is over. Dude, that's some fucked up shit. Can you imagine just being so high off the drugs that your mother had been doing and it affected a 5-year-old that bad to make her that delusional to think that her little sister is a doll and just out of nowhere she would just fucking beat her to death? That's fucking crazy. I also love how the mother's like blaming her when it's just like, first of all, I'm pretty sure at that time your daughter was delusional from the drugs that you were doing in the house. So therefore, you cannot be blaming her for the situation that you put her in. You know, how was she supposed to know? She was fucking. There's a thing as when you do drugs when you're pregnant, like do like heroin, then that baby itself can be addicted to drugs. You know, it goes for the same as like being even still being like super little and your parents doing drugs all the time. It's still going to affect you if you're inside that house with drugs. Like that's just crazy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you're new to my channel, I appreciate the subscribe button, give you the thumbs up and the bell so you're notified when I make videos such as daily. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.